Okay, cut. And then into here. Now I have a problem where I don't have enough room for it. So now I'm at the point where I need to figure out how to make the ESP bigger. This is just getting insane already. See what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for me knowing what an XY problem was, I would be stuck on this part. So, how would I resize it? Well, obviously I can't use disk management because I can't do anything with it. Well, would it work with GParted? Okay, that's the correct one. Now, in order to access GParted, I need to shut it down and then start it back up with EFI for some reason. Don't ask me why that is. We have a problem. Oh, oops. I don't know what caused that. Maybe it just took a while to shut down. So let's go to GParted Live and see if we can expand it. So, now here's the thing. We're gonna... Oh, I just realized something. We're gonna actually have to move our partition over, which means we're not gonna have enough room on our RAM disk for that. So we're gonna have to move the snapshot. I'm just gonna move it to the desktop for now. It's evidently the only one that's there. That was instant. Wow. Okay, so see, I'll watch. If I try to attach the snapshot, I'm gonna get an error because I'm trying to attach the same identifier. So I want to remove this. And then if I remove it from the known database and then add it again, there we go. Now, we should still get the benefits of being able to boot really fast because the operating system's on the original image, which is still on the RAM disk. But whatever we modify will be stored on the other thing, which is a snapshot on the desktop. So I'll show you what we need to do whenever we get there. Okay, so here's what we need to do. So once GParted starts up, we need to obviously make room right here, right? But we need free space preceding it like this, right? But because it has to be contiguous, like it has to be right after this. I can't use this on allocated space all the way over here. It has to be to this, if anything. So I have to actually move the partition over in order to achieve that. So what I'm going to do is, rather than moving the 2.8 terabytes, that's ridiculous. I want to temporarily shrink it to as much as I physically can because I'm not going to be in the operating system. And then I'll be able to move only 10 gigs instead of 2.73 terabytes or tebibytes. Sorry, that's the actual abbreviation, by the way. What do I look like? Oh, good. Alright, so now we can move this over. So how big do I want this to be, right? This is 100 megabytes. Let's make it 1,000 or 1 gigabyte. Or I'll just use gigabyte like I said I would. So 100 plus 1 equals 1,000. Well, 1,000 minus 100 is 900. Exactly. So, yep. Don't worry, it should fix itself. Now, there is one little problem here. We actually will not be able to... Well, okay, I'll move this, which is going to take a while, then I'll explain what's going on. Oh, see, we got this much space, so we got to move over the RAM disk. Oh, ho, ho, ho. I would have almost had enough free storage for this much. That's why I'm moving it to my main hard drive. So yeah, I'll just let this happen. Almost done. Alright, so it moved now, right? We do have a slightly major problem. GParted for some reason will not allow us to resize FAT32 like that. Like, it's just gonna run into a glitch and then none of it's gonna work. But thanks to Curtis Gedak, I don't know if I pronounced that name right, there's a workaround. What that workaround involves is creating another partition. We'll just make it big enough to store the stuff that's in this FAT32 one right now. I guess I'll make it 100 megabytes as well, and I'll do ext4. So the workaround involves backing up the file into another partition or drive, whatever. And so while we're waiting for that, what we're going to do in our mount folder, we're going to actually mount these partitions so we can access the files on them using the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to sudo mkdir mnt slash, I'll just call it FAT32 for that corresponding one, and then ext4 for the backup one. I know that's a horrible name, but I'll build, as long as you identify which one's which, it'll work. Now, we gotta back up all the contents of FAT32 to ext4. So first we gotta mount our partitions to the corresponding folders. So I'm gonna say sudo mount dev sda FAT32 to sda1. So that goes over to mnt slash FAT32. And then we're gonna mount SDA3 over to our ext4 folder. So now if we go to FAT32, there's the contents of that one, and then if we go to ext4, there's the contents of that one, like about 100 megabytes as well. Perfect. So now we can actually access the partition. So what we need to do is, part of this workaround is backing up the file, right? We're only on that step, believe it or not. I'll have to say sudo mv for move slash mnt slash FAT32 slash GParted. No, sorry, EFI over to mnt slash ext4 slash EFI. So now if we go to FAT32, gone. ext4, there it is. So now we have our file backed up, okay? So now what we need to do is, for our case, we're gonna reformat it as ext4. Like if you resize it as FAT32, it'll get this horrible error. I'm not even gonna show you because otherwise I have to do everything over again. So we had to convert it to ext4. See, this is the kind of error we get when we try to resize it. Very similar error. So, oh crap. Oh, no, the reason why it's not working is because it's still mounted. So, we gotta unmount it. Sorry, I forgot about that. Now we can go to ext4. And it'll let us. So let's we still got our stuff in the backup. This is no longer there. Because, yeah. So now it's ext4. Now we will be able to resize it without any issues. We will have issues if it's FAT32. So then we resize it, right? We could use AOMEI, but what if we want to do it for free? We could do this. Now we can format it back to FAT32 with its new size. We've resized our FAT32 partition essentially. All that. So now we gotta mount it again. So we'll mount our SDA1 to FAT32. So now if we go out there, it's not working, but now the correct size is showing up on the bottom. Perfect. So now we got to move this back to that other partition. So now, rather than doing this, we'll make it copy and paste to move this to FAT32/EFI. So now our file's back in there, and we still have our capacity. Sweet. So now what we want to do is delete our backup partition, which we can't do till we unmount it. We should unmount this too, by the way. Even though we could probably get away without it for right now. Then we can delete that partition. Let's just apply operations before we do too many things here. And then before we go back into Windows, we're going to want to make this bigger. So this seemed complicated. Yeah, it's more complicated than it had to be, because this is an XY problem, as I mentioned. It doesn't need to be this way. Wow, that was fast. How fast was, I was hoping to see how fast it was. Okay, now it's the regular size. That's normal, by the way. But now this is a gig instead of 100 meg. So now we should be able to fit our files on there. So we've resized our ESP now, which I never ever did until, this is one of my first times. This is probably my third time I've done it ever since then. So now let's see if we can get the files on there and if we can get it to read everything. This is not going to work. I'll give it another chance. Maybe it'll, yeah, it worked way better already. Oh no. Please don't do that. Just work, will you? Are we still recording now? That's the other question. Good. You know what? Shut this off. That's not normal. It shouldn't take that long. How much RAM? 77%. Okay. And then we can just start that back up once. See if that fixes anything. It might flush out mucus. Well, the equivalent of that. Might flush out all the impurities. That's what we just did, I think. Did we? I'm gonna give this a little bit. Like maybe a minute. I know what's going on. Remember we moved the partition for booting. Wow, I didn't do any of that, FYI. I just what happened was, because we moved the partition for booting, it needed to figure out what the offset was. I'm going to be talking about this in the 6-hour video, by the way. So it needed to figure out the starting sector of this partition, because that changed. And so it kind of freaked out a little bit. And evidently it found it now. So that's what happened. By the way, if you use AOMEI, I believe it automatically tells it for you, so it doesn't have to figure it out later like this does. So now if we go to the disk management, did it actually work? Is our ESP actually bigger so we could use it? Yep, there we go. So let's mount it. Disk part, select disk 0, I think it's the same thing. Select partition 1, assign letter equals I:. I think that's the next available letter. Yep, it officially resized. Okay, now we gotta restart Explorer as an admin so we can change the files. I can't do it from there. I have to do it right here. So now, what files? Oh, yeah, we don't need any of those first ones. Live, and then all these. So does it work if we move everything to here now? Ho ho! That's what we were looking for.